ANC workers are saying the governing party is the worst employer. This after they were made to work for months without pay, and they claim as well that the UIF benefits haven't been paid over either. Yesterday, continuing to embark on a countrywide protest. Always a pleasure, Jonathan Goldberg, Labour lawyer, joining us on eNCA this morning. Hello to you, Jonathan. Good to speak to you. So this was put on hold, really, this protest action, because of elections, but clearly the promises made to us on this very show by the ANC that all will be sorted out with salaries was a lie, because still no one's got their money. What did they do in this case?
Good morning to you and your viewers. Well, I think like any other employer, they have obligation to pay the employees to present themselves to work. And I think this has been ongoing long enough that it should have been sorted out. So for my mind, it's an indictment on the employer that effectively for months and months and months, in dribs and drabs, the employer doesn't pay over. And if the news reports are correct, even the pay-as-you-earn deductions have not been paid over to SARS. And as we know, that's an offence, and the normal law should apply to them like any other employer.
What is the law in this case, Jonathan?
Well, the law is you're obliged to pay over the deductions that you make from employees. You can't illegally hold them. That's a crime. And second of all, employees who present themselves to work must be paid, or else processes must be started to liquidate the organisation. It's as simple as that. You can't go for months and months and months with people unpaid. And, you know, to my mind, any employer who's not paying the employees, there's a responsibility on the people who either on the board or the trustees of that particular organisation. They're liable because they need to do the planning to ensure that sufficient cash flow is available to pay workers. That's the first port of call, that workers who work for you should be paid first.
I see as well that there's reports that some 80 million rand of a SARS tax bill is unsettled as well. So there's clearly a major cash flow problem at the ANC as well. So what would the legal recourse be? What's the legal steps for those who are busy protesting at the moment? Because protesting outside Luthuli House is one thing, but in the end, I'm sure there's some kind of legal action that they can pursue. What would you recommend?
Well, I'd recommend, of course, the fact that they're not being paid is a breach in terms of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. But again, if there is no money, even if you get the Department of Employment and Labour, and it'd be interesting to ask that question, where they've been there, inspected, and asked the employer to comply with their legal obligations, the next step is liquidation. So to my mind, if I was an employee, I would start that particular process unless there's a serious commitment to pay money. And to my mind, maybe people who've got positions in organisations because they are members of the ANC should also start contributing. I know there was some talk of that, but if I was a mayor on the basis that I was an ANC member, maybe part of my salary should go to paying workers first, because that's why I'm there.
Yeah, I was about to put the question forward to you as well. One has to wonder whether or not the top brass, maybe the ANC top six, have all received their very significant salaries, and why maybe that has not been paid over to staff. Jonathan, I'm curious to hear, though, as well, that the ANC has come out with a statement, a letter, saying that it's all due to COVID-19. The country is facing an economic crisis, that they haven't been spared. What I read into that is it's bad financial planning going forward. Everyone is struggling at the moment, and as an employer, tell me if you agree, they should have planned further down the road to avoid this sort of situation.
My own view, it's the fiduciary duties of the trustees or the board to ensure that sufficient cash flow is there to pay their workers and pay their obligations. If that's not the case, they should enter into proceedings of liquidation. Now, let's go back one step. So all businesses are suffering because of COVID. All businesses have got cash flow problems. And effectively, that's the issue. In terms of the Disaster Management Act, if you can work and employees present themselves to work, employers have to pay them. Everyone's forgotten that, unless there's a layoff agreement or a short-time agreement. And of course, then you can apply for short-time funds in terms of the UIF scheme, not the terse UIF scheme in terms of the Disaster Management Act that was created and paid out 63 billion. The normal short-time clause is available. That claim is available in terms of UIF. And again, we need to get the UIF functioning properly, that the payments are made on time so workers can get that short-time payment. So if I was advising workers and the employer, effectively they should agree, then let's go on short time, but you can't present yourself to work and not get paid. I truly believe that everyone needs to chip in who's got their positions because of the ANC to ensure that the workers who run the ANC, the office, should be paid. That's my view.
Jonathan, just briefly, the last question to you before I let you go. You mentioned liquidation of the ANC on 2 or 3 occasions now. What would that look like, considering this is not just any normal business, it's also the ruling party? How complicated could it be for the ANC to liquidate?
I'm not that structure needs to be liquidated like any business, any NGO, any non-profit organization just needs to be liquidated. And again, remember, as a trustee, let's assume it's set up with trustees, they have a fiduciary duty to enter into liquidation proceedings if they are not softened. And to my mind, there's an obligation at law for them to do that.
I appreciate your time. Always good to have you with us here on eNCA. Jonathan Goldberg joining us, Labour lawyer, very well known, of course, looking at the disgruntled ANC employees who have not received their money for the past few months, with some legal advice as well. Also talking about liquidation for the ANC. Is that a possibility? We'll have to wait and see. Nandi Shaba.